Welcome, dear listener. Tonight we journey together into a time when the world held its breath, when the earth paused between warmth and ice, between endings and beginnings. This is the story of the Younger Dryas, a moment frozen in our planet's memory. As you settle into this space, let your body sink deeper into whatever surface holds you. Feel the weight of your head against the pillow, the gentle rise and fall of your chest. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do. Simply allow yourself to be here, in this moment, as we drift together through time. Tonight, you don't need to remember every detail, you don't need to follow every word. Let this story wash over you like a gentle tide, carrying you toward rest. If your mind wanders, that's perfectly fine. If sleep finds you along the way, welcome it. This journey will continue whether you're awake or dreaming. Imagine for a moment that you're standing at the edge of time itself, looking back 12,000 years. The air is cool and still. Above you, stars pattern the darkness in ways your ancestors once knew. And somewhere in that vast expanse of time, the earth whispers its secrets. Before we begin, if this journey brings you comfort, if these words ease your passage into sleep, I invite you to like and subscribe to this channel. And in the comments below, share with our growing community which country you're listening from and what time of night or day has brought you here. We are travelers together, scattered across this turning world, united in our search for peace and rest. Now let your eyes grow heavy. Let your breath slow and deepen. We're about to step back through the mists of time to a world both familiar and strange to understand what happens when Earth suddenly freezes. Close your eyes and imagine you're floating, suspended in warm darkness. You're drifting backward through time, moving gently through centuries like pages in an ancient book. Days and nights flicker past like candlelight. Seasons blur into a continuous flow of blooming and fading, growing and resting. We're moving back through time. Past the industrial age with its coal smoke and steam. Past medieval winters and Roman summers. Past the rise of agriculture. Past the first cities built of stone and mud. We're traveling to a time before writing, before metal tools, when humans lived in small bands and knew every star by name. 12,800 years ago, that's where we're going. Can you feel it? The air growing different around you, colder, sharper. The landscape spreading out below transforms. This is Earth during a time called the Pleistocene, at the very end of the last great ice age. For nearly 100,000 years, ice has held the northern world in its grip. Glaciers thick as mountains have covered Canada, Scandinavia, parts of northern Asia. These rivers of ice, so vast and heavy they press the very land beneath them down into the Earth's mantle, have been slowly, gradually retreating. Imagine those glaciers now in your mind's eye. They're not the stark white ice you might picture. They're ancient blue compressed over millennia, shot through with sediment and stone. They creak and groan as they move, carving icebergs the size of cities into cold seas. Meltwater streams from their bases, carving channels, creating vast lakes where none existed before. For generations upon generations, the world has been warming. The ice has been melting. Spring comes a little earlier each year. Summer's warmth reaches a little further north. The tundra gives way to grassland, grassland to shrubs, shrubs to the first brave trees venturing northward. This is a world of megafauna, of creatures that will soon vanish from the earth. Woolly mammoths move in herds across the grasslands, their curved tusks sweeping aside snow to reach the vegetation beneath. Their fur is thick, layered, adapted to cold that has defined their species for hundreds of thousands of years. Giant ground sloths lumber through what will one day be called North America. Saber-toothed cats prowl the edges of forests. Massive dire wolves hunt in packs. Short-faced bears, the largest land predators on the continent, stand 12 feet tall on their hind legs. Cave lions roam territories spanning hundreds of miles. And humans are here too. Small groups, families, clans. They're survivors, these people. They've learned to thrive in a world poised between ice and warmth. They know how to track the migrations of caribou and mammoth. They understand the language of weather, can read the subtle signs that speak of coming storms or clearing skies. They craft tools from stone with a precision and artistry that will not be surpassed for millennia. These people have culture, art, stories. Around fires at night, they share tales of the land, of the animals, of how the world came to be. They paint on cave walls, carve figurines from ivory and bone, create the first sculptures. They bury their dead with care and ceremony, suggesting they understand something beyond the immediate moment, beyond just survival. Let yourself drift into their world now. Feel the cool air on your skin carrying the scent of pine and earth. Hear the distant crack of ice, the call of birds you've never heard before. This is a world in transition, warming, opening, becoming something new. The great ice sheets that have dominated for so long are shrinking. Each year they retreat a little further. The land they uncover is raw, scraped clean by the passage of ice. But life is quick to return. Mosses and lichens first, then grasses, then the animals that feed on them. Imagine standing at the edge of one of these glaciers. It rises before you like a cliff of blue-white crystal, hundreds of feet high. Water runs from it in streams and rivulets, forming pools and lakes. The sound is constant, the drip and flow and rush of melting ice. This is the sound of a world transforming. In Europe, the glaciers are retreating from what will become Germany, Poland, the British Isles. New coastlines are emerging. Land that was ice for 50,000 years is seeing sunlight for the first time in living memory, in the memory of countless generations. The oceans are rising. Slowly, imperceptibly from day to day, but year by year, decade by decade, the sea levels climb. Coastal areas that were once dry land are flooded. The Bering Land Bridge, that connector between Asia and America, is beginning to shrink. Soon it will be gone, severing the human populations on 2 continents. But for now, in this moment we're drifting through, the warming continues, the future seems predictable, the ice will keep melting, the world will keep warming, life will keep expanding into territories that were locked in frozen silence. The people living through this change don't know they're experiencing a climate shift. To them, this is simply the world as it has always been. The stories passed down from their grandparents and great-grandparents speak of slightly colder times, slightly more ice, but the trend has been consistent within living memory. Warmer, always warmer. They don't know that in just a few generations something will happen that defies all prediction, all experience, all the gradual patterns they've come to understand. They don't know that the Earth is about to do something sudden, something violent in its swiftness. But for now, rest in this moment of not knowing. Feel the warmth of the fire, the security of the cave, the rhythm of seasons that seem eternal. Let your breathing match the slow exhale of the melting ice. Let your heartbeat synchronize with the patient pulse of a warming world. You're safe here, in this space between then and now, between waking and sleeping. The story continues, but you don't need to hold on to it. Let it carry you, gentle as a current, deep as time itself. Imagine now that you're floating high above the earth, suspended in the gentle darkness of space. Below you, the planet turns slowly, a sphere of blue and white and brown. But this is not the Earth you know. This is Earth, 12,000 years ago, wearing ice like a crown. From this height, you can see the Great Laurentide ice sheet covering most of Canada and the northern United States. It's vast, this glacier. Imagine an area larger than Antarctica, buried under ice up to 2 miles thick. That's how much weight rests on the northern continent. Next to it, smaller but still immense, is the Cordilleran ice sheet running down the western mountains. In Europe, the Fennoscandian ice sheet covers Scandinavia. Smaller glaciers cap the Alps, the Pyrenees, the mountains of Asia. Let your consciousness drift down now, down through the thin atmosphere, down toward that ice. Feel yourself descending gently, like a feather on a breeze. There's no rush. Take your time. Notice how your breath naturally slows as you sink deeper into this vision. Beneath those massive ice sheets, something extraordinary has been forming. Meltwater, generated by the gradual warming, has been pooling. It flows beneath the ice, finding channels, creating rivers in the darkness, under miles of frozen weight. Some of it escapes to the sea, but much of it becomes trapped. Imagine lakes forming in this space between ice and land. Vast lakes, some larger than all the Great Lakes combined. They're held back by walls of ice, dammed by the very glaciers that created them. These are proglacial lakes, bodies of water that exist only because of ice. The largest of these is called Lake Agassiz, though the people living nearby have no such name for it. It stretches across what will one day be Manitoba, Ontario, Saskatchewan, parts of North Dakota and Minnesota. At its greatest extent, it will be larger than all of today's Great Lakes combined, holding more water than all the world's lakes today combined. Feel yourself floating on this vast lake now. The water is cold, crystalline clear, melted from ice that fell as snow during the last glacial maximum. When you look down into the depths, you can see incredibly far, as if you're floating on liquid glass. The water is so pure, so free of sediment in some places, it barely seems to exist. Around the edges of the lake, ice walls rise like cliffs. They're blue and white, stratified with layers marking years and decades of snowfall. Water cascades down these walls in places, creating waterfalls that feed the lake. The sound echoes across the water, a constant reminder of the ice's slow surrender to warmth. But this lake is held in place only by ice. Walls of ice, dams of ice, barriers that exist only because the temperature stays below freezing. The lake itself is evidence that the temperature is rising, that meltwater is accumulating. It's a paradox, a body of water that exists because of cold but grows because of warmth. Let your mind expand outward now, feeling the full scope of this system. Water and ice locked in a delicate balance. The ice wants to melt, to flow, to return to the sea. The cold wants to hold it in place, to keep it frozen, contained. Between these two forces, enormous potential energy accumulates. Think of a dam holding back a reservoir, all that water, pressing against concrete and steel, held in place by engineering and the strength of materials. Now imagine that dam is made of ice. Ice that's melting, ice that's under pressure from the water it's trying to hold back, ice that's being undermined from below by the very meltwater it's trying to contain. The Laurentide ice sheet is riddled with these meltwater lakes. Lake Agassiz is the largest, but there are others. Lake Ojibwe, Lake Barlow, each one contained by ice, each one growing as the climate warms, each one pressing against its frozen boundaries with the patient, inexorable force of water seeking its level. For now, the ice holds. For now, the dams remain intact, but cracks are forming under pressure, under warmth, under the constant work of flowing water. The ice is weakening, not obviously, not in ways that would be visible to someone standing on the shore, but deep in the structure, in the crystal matrix of frozen water, bonds are breaking. Let yourself sink deeper into relaxation now. Feel the coolness of this ancient water surrounding you in your imagination. You're floating, supported, held by this lake that existed before cities, before agriculture, before the written word. Time moves differently here. A human lifetime is just a moment. The slow retreat of ice is the rhythm that matters. The water has a story encoded in it. Every molecule of H2O was once snow falling from clouds over an ancient winter. It accumulated year after year, compressed into ice, moved with the glacier's flow, and finally melted here, released from its crystalline prison. Some of this water has been frozen for 50,000 years, some for 100,000 years. And now it waits, patient, as only water can be patient. It has nowhere to go. The ice surrounds it, channels it, contains it. But water is persistent. Water finds a way. Given time, given warmth, given the opportunity of a crack or weakness, water will flow to the sea. It's what water does. It's what water has always done. In your mind's eye, zoom out again. See the whole system. The ice sheets covering the north. The lakes pooling at their margins and beneath them, the slowly rising seas, the warming air, everything connected, everything influencing everything else. The atmosphere holds heat. The heat melts ice. The ice releases water. The water absorbs more heat than ice, accelerating the warming. More ice melts, more water flows. It's a feedback loop, a cascade of cause and effect that amplifies itself. But something else is happening too, something in the oceans that will prove crucial to our story. Let your awareness drift now from the land to the sea, from the contained waters of glacial lakes to the vast, connected ocean that covers most of Earth. Water in the ocean moves in currents, great rivers flowing through the sea. These currents are driven by differences in temperature and salinity. Warm water from the tropics flows toward the poles. Cold water from the poles sinks and flows toward the equator. It's a circulation pattern that distributes heat around the planet, moderating climates, making Earth more hospitable than it would otherwise be. One of the most important of these currents is in the North Atlantic. Warm water from the tropics flows northward along the coast of North America, then curves eastward toward Europe. As it travels north, it cools. As it cools and reaches the very cold waters near Greenland, it becomes denser. It sinks, diving deep into the ocean, and flows back southward at depth. This sinking, this conveyor belt of water, is called thermohaline circulation. Thermo for temperature, haline for salinity. Both factors matter. The water needs to be cold enough and salty enough to sink. If it's too warm or too fresh, it stays at the surface. The circulation slows or stops, and if the circulation stops, Europe and North America don't receive the warmth that the current carries from the tropics. Climates shift dramatically. Suddenly, within years or even months, regions that were warming can plunge back toward glacial conditions. Let yourself relax into this image now. Don't try to remember all the details, just feel the flow, the circulation, the movement of water that connects the whole world. It's like breathing for the ocean, an inhale and exhale that takes centuries but never stops. Feel your own breathing now, the cool air entering your nose, flowing into your lungs, warming, then flowing back out. It's a circulation too, smaller, faster, but just as essential. Your breath and the ocean's circulation, both part of the same patterns that govern how energy and heat move through systems. Let your breathing slow. Let each exhale last a little longer. Let the spaces between breaths expand. You're synchronizing with something ancient, something vast. You're resting in the rhythm that moved these ancient waters, that governed the melting ice, that determined the fate of species and ecosystems. The world is balanced on the edge of a knife, though no one knows it. The ice is melting, the lakes are growing, the currents are flowing. Everything is in motion, but it's a predictable motion, a gradual change, until it isn't. But that comes later in our story. For now, simply rest in this understanding. ice and water, cold and warmth, circulation and stagnation. These are the forces that will shape what comes next. These are the elements of our frozen tale. You're doing beautifully. Your breathing is slow and steady. Your body is relaxed. Let the story continue to unfold around you like a gentle fog, present but not demanding. You can listen or not listen. You can stay or drift away. Either way, you're exactly where you need to be. Let's descend now from the realm of ice and vast waters, down to the land itself, to the living things that made their homes in this world between ice ages. Imagine you're settling softly onto a grassy plain, somewhere in what will one day be called the American Midwest. The air smells of earth and growing things. The sky above is wide and clear. This is spring 12,800 years ago. The warming has been consistent now for several thousand years. Life has responded, as life always does, by expanding, diversifying, filling every available space. The world is rich with creatures that will soon vanish, their existence preserved only in bones buried in sediment, in cave paintings, in the genetic memory carried by their distant descendants. Close your eyes and feel the sun on your face. It's cool still this far north, but warmer than it has been. The seasons are becoming more pronounced. Winters are shorter, summers longer. Plants that survived the glacial maximum in small refugia, pockets of survivable climate, are spreading northward again. Listen. In the distance, you hear a deep rumbling. It grows closer, accompanied by the sound of many feet on hard ground. A herd of mammoths is approaching, dozens of them, moving across the plain in their seasonal migration. They're following routes that their ancestors have followed for hundreds of thousands of years, seeking the best grazing, the most sheltered valleys. The mammoths pass nearby, and you can see them clearly now. They're enormous, these creatures. The bulls stand 13 feet tall at the shoulder, weigh 8 tons. Their tusks curve dramatically, some reaching 16 feet in length. Their fur is layered, a short, dense undercoat covered by guard hairs that can be 3 feet long. It's a reddish-brown color, highlighted golden in the sunlight. Watch them move. Despite their size, they walk with a kind of grace, their trunks swinging, their ears flapping occasionally to cool themselves. The calves stay close to their mothers, still learning the routes, the waterholes, the places where predators might hide. The matriarch leads an old female who has made this journey dozens of times, who carries in her memory the wisdom of her own mother and grandmother. They're talking to each other, these mammoths. Rumbling sounds too low for human ears to fully hear, infrasound that carries for miles. They're coordinating, communicating, maintaining social bonds that are as complex as those of any human clan. They mourn their dead. They help each other when injured. They remember. Let your breathing slow to match their patient pace. Feel the rhythm of their movement, the steady progress of creatures who have no concept that their time on Earth is almost over. In just a few more centuries, they will be gone, wiped out by a combination of climate change and human hunting. But they don't know that. They simply live, one generation after another, doing what mammoths have always done. As the herd passes, you notice other animals. A pair of dire wolves watches from a rise, calculating whether any of the mammoth calves might be vulnerable. These wolves are larger than their modern cousins, more heavily built, with massive skulls and jaws designed to crack bone. They're patient hunters, willing to follow a herd for days, waiting for opportunity. In the other direction, a giant short-faced bear emerges from a copse of trees. The dire wolves immediately defer, slinking away. This bear is the apex predator of this world, larger than any bear that will exist in the future, standing 12 feet tall when it rises on its hind legs. It's a scavenger as much as a hunter, using its size and strength to drive other predators from their kills. But even the short-faced bear moves aside when a group of humans appears. Not because humans are larger or stronger, but because they're unpredictable, clever, capable of cooperation that makes them dangerous beyond their size. The humans carry spears tipped with carefully crafted stone points. They move quietly, communicating with gestures as much as words. They're tracking the mammoth herd, not to hunt today, but to learn, to watch, to understand the patterns. Let yourself become one of these people for a moment. Feel the weight of the spear in your hand, the rawhide clothing against your skin, the awareness that comes from a life lived in complete contact with the land. You know the names of every plant, every animal. You know which plants heal, which poison, which sustain. You can read weather in the color of the sky, the behavior of birds, the smell of the wind. You've been taught that the world is alive, that every rock and tree and animal has a spirit, a presence, a purpose. You give thanks before taking a life, apologize to the plant when you harvest its roots. You're not separate from nature. You are nature, as much as the mammoth or the wolf or the grass beneath your feet. Your people have stories about how the world came to be, how the first humans emerged from caves in the earth, or descended from the sky, or were shaped from clay by the hands of gods. These stories contain practical wisdom too, encoded in metaphor. They tell you where to find water in drought, how to navigate by stars, when to move camp and when to stay. You have art. Your people paint on rock walls, create carvings in bone and antler, fashion beads from shells and stones. Music comes from bone flutes, from drums made of stretched hide, from your own voices singing around the fire. You have fashion, preferences about how clothing should be decorated, how hair should be worn. You have culture as rich and complex as any that will follow. And you have this world, this extraordinary menagerie of megafauna that shares your home. Besides the mammoths, there are mastodons in the forests, shorter and stockier than their mammoth cousins, preferring to browse on trees rather than graze on grass. There are giant ground sloths, some species as large as elephants, moving slowly through woodlands, using their enormous claws to pull down branches. In the grasslands, herds of ancient bison roam, larger than modern bison with horn spans reaching 7 feet. Ancient horses run in herds, though they're different from the horses that will later be domesticated, with different proportions, different stripes, and markings. Ancient camels still exist here, though they evolved in North America and will soon be extinct on this continent, surviving only in Asia. The birds are different too. Teratorns, massive, condor-like birds with wingspans of 12 feet, soar on thermals, scanning for carrion. Giant ground eagles hunt on foot, using their powerful legs and talons to capture prey. The skies are full of varieties that will vanish when the climate shifts again. Let yourself drift now through this landscape in your mind. You're floating, observing, held in the embrace of this world that's about to change. Don't try to memorize every creature, every detail. Simply absorb the richness, the diversity, the sheer abundance of life. The plants, too, are in transition. The spruce forests that dominated during the coldest times are giving way to mixed forests. Birch and poplar are spreading. In some areas, the first oaks are appearing, pioneers of the deciduous forests that will come to dominate. The tundra is shrinking northward, its mosses and lichens and dwarf willows being replaced by taller vegetation. This is a world in flux, but it's a manageable flux. The changes happen slowly enough for species to adapt, to migrate, to find new niches. The warming has been consistent for long enough that it seems permanent, the new normal. The ice age is ending, clearly, inevitably. The future is warmer, greener, more abundant. The people living through this don't know they're at the end of something. They don't know that their great-great-grandchildren will tell stories of a time when the world suddenly turned cold again, when the ice returned, when the reliable patterns shattered. They don't know they're living in the last years of the Pleistocene, that an epoch is about to end and a new one begin. For them, this is simply the world. And in this moment, it's a good world. Hard, yes, dangerous, certainly, but also beautiful, full of wonder, full of life. Rest here in this moment. Let your mind wander through this ancient landscape. Perhaps you see yourself by a stream, watching fish swim upstream to spawn, fish as large as humans. Perhaps you're in a cave, adding your handprint to the wall beside those of your ancestors. Perhaps you're on a hilltop at sunset, watching the sky turn gold and red, feeling the cooling air on your skin, smelling smoke from distant fires. You're safe here. You're held by the rhythm of this world, the predictable cycle of seasons, the reliable patterns of animal migrations and plant growth. Your breathing matches the breath of the land, the slow inhale of spring growth, the exhale of autumn decay. Your heartbeat syncs with the pulse of life all around you. The story continues, but you don't need to hold on to it. Let it flow through you like water through a stream. Some details catch and stay, others pass on. Both are fine. You're exactly where you need to be, drifting between waking and sleeping, between now and then, between knowing and dreaming. The world turns beneath you. Stars wheel overhead. Time itself becomes fluid, mutable, a river you're floating on rather than a road you must walk. And in this space between moments, between breaths, you're perfectly, completely at peace. Something is shifting now, though it's subtle, easy to miss. Imagine you're still in that ancient world, but time is moving forward again, gently, like a tide coming in. Days pass, then weeks, then seasons. The changes are small at first, barely noticeable. The spring seems a little later this year. Not dramatically, just enough that the elders comment on it, comparing it to springs from their youth. The growing season is slightly shorter. Plants that usually flower in abundance produce fewer blooms. The mammoths, returning from their winter territories, arrive a few weeks later than expected. Let yourself feel this subtle shift. It's like a change in the wind, a different quality to the air. Nothing alarming, not yet. Just different. The kind of change that makes you pull your cloak a little tighter, add another log to the fire. Wonder if winter might be harder this year. But deep beneath the Laurentide ice sheet, something more dramatic is happening. Remember Lake Agassiz, that vast body of water trapped between ice and land? It's been growing for centuries, fed by the relentless melting of the ice sheet. It's now truly massive, holding more water than all of today's lakes combined. And it's looking for a way out. Float down into the darkness beneath the ice for a moment. Feel the pressure of millions of tons of ice above you, and below that, millions more tons of water. The water is finding channels, cracks in the ice, weaknesses in the dam. It's flowing slowly at first, exploratory, testing each potential escape route. The ice is weakening. The warming that has been so consistent, so beneficial, has done its work too well. The dam is failing, not in one dramatic moment, but gradually through 1,000 small structural defeats. Cracks widen. Channels deepen. The pressure builds. And then one spring day, something gives way. It doesn't happen all at once. First, a trickle becomes a stream. The stream becomes a river. The river carves its channel deeper, faster. The ice around it, undermined and weakened, begins to collapse. Blocks of ice the size of buildings carve into the rushing water. The sound is tremendous, a roar that echoes across the landscape. But let's not make this dramatic. Let's keep it gentle, observed from a distance. Imagine you're watching from far away, high above, seeing it as a pattern of change rather than a catastrophe. It's just water finding its way to the sea, doing what water has always done. The breach widens. More water escapes. Lake Agassiz, which has been rising for centuries, begins to drain, not all at once, not in a single catastrophic flood, but steadily, powerfully, an immense volume of water flowing north through channels in the ice, heading toward the Arctic Ocean. How much water? Imagine if all 5 Great Lakes drained in a single year. Now multiply that by several times. That's the scale we're talking about. Enough water to raise global sea level measurably. Enough cold, fresh water to change the very composition of the Arctic Ocean. Let this image wash over you gently. Water flowing, ice melting, a lake draining. It's not violent in your mind, it's powerful, yes, but with the power of nature, which is neither malicious nor kind. It simply is. The water flows north, following the path of least resistance. It carries with it sediment, ice, the remains of plants and animals. It carves new channels, widens existing ones. It spreads out as it reaches the Arctic, a massive influx of fresh water into a cold, salty sea. And here's where the gentleness ends, though we'll tell it softly. That fresh water, cold from its glacial source but not salty, spreads across the surface of the Arctic Ocean. It's less dense than salt water, so it doesn't sink. It forms a cap, a layer that sits on top of the denser, saltier water below. Remember the thermohaline circulation we talked about? That great conveyor belt of water that brings warmth from the tropics to the North Atlantic. It depends on cold, salty water sinking near Greenland and flowing back south at depth. But if the surface water isn't salty enough, it can't sink. The circulation weakens. In some places it stops. Feel this in your body now. Imagine your blood circulation slowing, not stopping, but becoming sluggish, less efficient. Heat isn't distributed properly. Some parts of your body become too warm, others grow cold. That's what's beginning to happen to Earth's climate system. The changes don't happen immediately. Climate has momentum, inertia. It takes time for the effects to cascade through the system. But the disruption has begun. The circulation is slowing, less warm water is flowing north, less cold water is flowing south. The heat distribution that has governed Earth's climate is being interrupted. Let yourself sink deeper into relaxation now. This is a lot to take in, but you don't need to remember it all. Just feel the flow, the interconnection, the way one thing leads to another in the great dance of climate and ocean and ice. Months pass, the first winter, after the drainage is cold, but not unusually so. The second winter is colder, the third colder still. The people living through it notice, of course. How could they not? They're finely attuned to their environment, aware of every shift in temperature, every change in the timing of seasons. The hunting becomes harder. The mammoth herds are moving, changing their migration routes in response to changes in vegetation. The plants are responding to the cooling, their growing seasons shortening, their ranges contracting. The carefully learned knowledge of generations of where to find food and when is becoming less reliable. But humans are adaptable. They adjust, they move their camps, change their strategies, learn new patterns. They've survived the glacial maximum. They can survive this. It's just a cold spell, they might think. It will pass. The warming will return. This is temporary, but it's not temporary. The cooling continues year after year, decade after decade. The ice sheets, which had been retreating for thousands of years, stop their retreat. In some places, they begin to advance again, slowly reclaiming land that had been ice-free for centuries. Let your breathing slow even more now. Feel the cooling in your imagination, not as something frightening, but simply as a change in temperature. Like moving from a warm room to a cooler one. Your body adjusts. Life adjusts. Everything adapts or moves or changes. The Younger Dryas has begun, though no one living through it knows this name. They don't know they're entering a climate period that will last for more than 1,000 years. They don't know that future scientists will identify this period by pollen preserved in lake sediments, by oxygen isotopes in ice cores, by the sudden reappearance of Arctic plants in regions that had begun to warm. They only know that the world is colder now, that the ice has returned, that the future they expected, warmer and greener, has been replaced by something else, something that looks disturbingly like the past their grandparents told stories about. Rest here for a moment, feel the weight of time, the inexorable shift from warm to cold, but also feel the resilience of life, the stubbornness with which living things cling to existence. The mammoths are still there, the humans are still there. Life continues, adapting to new circumstances as it has always adapted. You're drifting now, floating on the current of this story. Your conscious mind might be starting to fade, and that's perfectly fine. The story will continue whether you're fully aware of it or not. Your deeper mind is listening, absorbing, understanding in ways that don't require active attention. Let go of any effort to follow every detail. Let go of the need to remember. Simply be here, in this space between waking and sleeping, between warmth and cold, between one world and another. The story holds you. The rhythm of the words carries you. You're safe, relaxed, drifting into deeper rest. Breathe in slowly. Hold for a moment. Release. Like the slow rhythm of seasons in a world growing colder. Let's move through time now, not in years, but in breaths. Each inhale and exhale carries us forward, gentle as snowfall, steady as the advance of ice. The Younger Dryas is in full effect now. We're perhaps a century past the initial drainage of Lake Agassiz. The world has settled into a new pattern, colder than the warming trend that preceded it, but not quite as cold as the glacial maximum. It's a middle place, an in-between time, holding the tension between ice and warmth. Imagine you're standing again in that ancient landscape, but it's transformed. The mixed forests that were beginning to appear have retreated. The spruce and pine are back, tough conifers that can withstand the cold. In many areas, the forest has given way entirely to tundra, vast expanses of low-growing shrubs, mosses, and tough grasses adapted to short-growing seasons and permafrost. The mammoth herds have adjusted, moving their ranges southward, following the vegetation they depend on. But the herds are smaller now. The calves born in recent years have a harder time surviving the longer, harsher winters. The old routes, the traditional migration paths, don't always lead to good grazing anymore. Let yourself feel the rhythm of this world. It's slower now, more constrained. The exuberance of the warming period has been replaced by something more careful, more conservative. Life is focused on survival, on endurance, on making it through another winter. Close your eyes and listen to the wind. It's constant now, blowing from the north, carrying the chill of the ice sheets. The glaciers have stopped retreating. In some places they're advancing again, their leading edges grinding forward slowly, inexorably, reclaiming land that had seen several centuries of warmth. The people have adapted, as people always do. They've moved their settlements, followed the herds south and into more sheltered valleys. Their clothing has changed, becoming heavier, more layered. They've refined their techniques for preserving food, for creating warm shelters, for surviving long periods when hunting is impossible. Around the fire at night, the stories have changed too. The elders speak of a time when winters were shorter, when strange trees grew, where now only tundra exists. The younger generations listen but find it hard to imagine. This cold world is the only one they've known. To them this is normal, this is how the world is, but let's not stay with the human perspective. Let's expand outward, feeling the whole system, the entire planet responding to this climate shift. Breathe with me now, slowly, and let your awareness grow with each breath, encompassing more, seeing patterns from high above. The thermohaline circulation in the North Atlantic remains disrupted. Less warm water flows north, less cold water sinks and flows south. The result is a cooling across the entire northern hemisphere. Europe, which had been warming, is gripped by cold again. Ice advances in the Alps in Scandinavia. The permafrost line moves south. But here's something interesting, something that speaks to the complexity of Earth's climate. The southern hemisphere is less affected. In fact, some regions there are actually warming slightly during the Younger Dryas. The seesaw effect, scientists will one day call it. When the north cools, the south warms and vice versa. It's a redistribution of heat, a rebalancing. Let this complexity wash over you gently. Don't try to understand every mechanism. Just feel the interconnection. The way changes in one part of the system ripple through the whole. Your breath moving in and out is part of this same pattern. Oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange between your lungs and the atmosphere, part of cycles that connect you to every living thing, every breath taken by every creature across all of time. The seasons continue their rhythm, but they're different now. Spring comes late, sometimes not until what would have been early summer in the warmer period. The snow lingers. The ground stays frozen longer. Plants that depend on a long growing season don't produce seeds. They survive dormant, waiting for better times. Summer is brief, cool. The sun still arcs high in the sky at northern latitudes, but the air doesn't warm as much as it used to. Clouds form more easily. Rain and snow mix even in what should be the warmest months. The permafrost, which had been retreating, begins to advance again, locking the ground in perpetual frost just inches below the surface. Autumn comes early. The first frosts arrive while plants are still actively growing. There's no time for a gradual transition. Summer ends and winter arrives with shocking swiftness. The animals scramble to prepare. Migration becomes urgent. Those species that hibernate must build their fat reserves quickly, with less food available. And winter stretches long. Months of cold, of snow, of winds that scour the landscape. The days are short at these latitudes. Darkness dominates. The aurora borealis shimmers in the night sky, curtains of green and red light that the people watch with wonder and perhaps a little fear, seeing in them spirits or messages from ancestors. Let yourself sink into the rhythm of these seasons. Feel them in your body. The contraction of winter, pulling inward, conserving energy. The brief expansion of summer, growing, producing. The transitions between them, shorter now, more abrupt. It's like a heartbeat, but slower. A breath, but deeper. The pulse of a planet in a cold phase. The megafauna are struggling. The giant ground sloths, adapted to browsing on trees, find their food sources shrinking. The forests are retreating. The shrublands are expanding. Some species begin to decline in numbers. Others shift their ranges, moving south with the warming vegetation, but there's only so far south they can go. The mammoths, ironically, fare better than some other species. They're adapted to cold. Their thick fur, their ability to use their tusks to sweep away snow and reach vegetation beneath, their complex social structures that allow for knowledge sharing across generations, all of these help them survive. But even mammoths have limits. The massive, short-faced bear, the apex predator, finds hunting harder. Prey is less abundant, more scattered. The bears must range over larger territories, expend more energy for less food. Their numbers begin to decline. In another few thousand years, they'll be extinct, unable to adapt to the changing world quickly enough. Feel the weight of this loss, but gently. Don't let it create tension in your body. Just acknowledge it. Species come and go. Extinction is part of the pattern of life on Earth, as much as birth and growth and flourishing. It's sad, yes, but it's also natural, part of the great flow. Humans, adaptable and clever, are among the species that survive, but they pay a price. Their populations decline somewhat. Groups that were connected become isolated by ice, by distance, by the need to stay near reliable resources. Cultural diversity increases as groups develop their own solutions to survival, their own stories and technologies. Some groups begin to experiment more deliberately with plant management. In the warming period, it had been enough to know where the good plants grew and to harvest them. But now, with resources scarcer, some people begin to actively encourage the growth of useful plants. They scatter seeds, they clear competing vegetation. They're not farming yet, not exactly, but they're moving in that direction. It's necessity that drives innovation, hardship that sparks creativity. The Younger Dryas, difficult as it is pushing humans to develop new strategies, new technologies, new ways of relating to the landscape. In a few more millennia, some of these groups will develop full agriculture, will domesticate plants and animals, will begin the Neolithic revolution that leads to civilization as we know it. But that's far in the future still. For now, they simply endure. They survive winters. They track herds. They share knowledge. They tell stories that preserve essential information. They paint on cave walls, leaving records that archaeologists will one day find and wonder at. Let your mind drift through this landscape now. You're moving like wind, like water, flowing across continents, seeing the whole northern hemisphere locked in this cold phase. Ice in the north, tundra spreading, forests contracting, life persisting in pockets, in refugia, in places where microclimates allow for survival. The ocean currents are still disrupted. The Gulf Stream, weakened, delivers less warmth to Europe. The North Atlantic is cold, sometimes filled with icebergs even in summer. The fishing is good though for those people living along the coasts. Cold water is rich in nutrients, supports abundant plankton, which supports fish, which supports the seals and seabirds and the humans who hunt them. In the caves of Europe, in what will one day be France and Spain, artists create their masterpieces. The paintings at Lascaux, the sculptures of Venus figurines, the bone flutes and carved ornaments, much of this art is created during the cold of the Younger Dryas. Perhaps the long dark winters give people time for art, for culture, for the creation of beauty even in hardship. Or perhaps it's the opposite. Perhaps the hardship makes beauty more necessary, more precious. When life is difficult, when survival is uncertain, perhaps the human spirit needs art more than ever, needs to create, to express, to leave a mark that says, we were here, we saw beauty, we made meaning. Rest in this thought for a moment. Let it settle into your mind like snow settling on the ground, gentle, accumulating, transforming the landscape. You don't need to analyze it, just feel the truth of it. Art and hardship, beauty and survival, intertwined. Your breathing has slowed now, matching the slow pulse of this frozen world. Each breath is a season, each heartbeat is a year. Time dilates, expands. You're not quite awake, not quite asleep. You're in the space between, the liminal space, the threshold. And here, in this in-between place, the story continues to unfold around you like snow falling in the darkness. The Younger Dryas persists. Year after year, decade after decade, century after century, more than 1,000 years of cold, of ice, of a world suspended between the glacial past and the warm future that will eventually come. It's a pause, a caesura in Earth's warming trend. And like all pauses, it creates a space for something new to emerge, though no one living through it can see what that something will be. You're held here, suspended, just like the Earth was suspended between climates. And in this suspension, there's a kind of peace. Nothing is rushing forward. Nothing is urgent. There's only the slow rhythm, the patient endurance, the quiet persistence of life in a cold world. Let yourself rest in this rhythm. Let it carry you deeper into sleep if sleep is ready to claim you. Or simply float here, in this gentle space where time moves slowly and the story continues in whispers and images, in the language of dreams rather than waking thought. Drift with me now deeper into the dream time where past and present blur like watercolors running together. We're going to look at how the Younger Dryas left its signature on the Earth, writing its story in ice and stone and the very molecules of ancient air. Imagine you're floating down through layers of snow that have accumulated over thousands of years. Each layer is a year marked by the seasons of its deposition. Summer snow is different from winter snow slightly. The difference is subtle, but it's there, preserved in the structure of the ice crystals, in the tiny bubbles of air trapped between them. You're descending through the ice sheet in Greenland now. The ice here is miles thick, each layer compressed by the weight of those above it. As you go deeper, you're traveling back in time. The ice around you becomes denser, more compacted. The annual layers become thinner, harder to distinguish, but they're still there if you know how to look. Scientists will one day drill cores from this ice, extracting cylinders of frozen time. They'll analyze these cores in laboratories, measuring the ratio of oxygen isotopes, counting layers, reading the history of Earth's climate written in crystal and air. But you don't need instruments, you can feel the story in your bones, in your breath. The ice from the Younger Dryas period has a signature. The oxygen isotopes tell of cold, of more evaporation from cold oceans, of snow that fell in a colder world. The layers are thicker during this period because the cold brought more precipitation to green land. The air bubbles trapped in the ice contain less carbon dioxide and methane than the layers above and below, because cold conditions reduce the biological processes that produce these gases. Let yourself sink deeper through the Younger Dryas layers into the warming period that preceded it. You can feel the transition, a shift in the very texture of the ice. Warmer. The layers changing their character. And if you could see the chemistry, you'd see the isotopes shifting, telling of a warmer ocean, warmer air, different patterns of precipitation. Float back up now through the Younger Dryas layers and up into the warming period that followed, the early Holocene, the epoch we still live in today. Another transition, another shift. The ice records it all, patient and precise, a library written in frozen water. But ice isn't the only keeper of records. Let's drift now to a lake, somewhere in Europe, that has existed continuously since before the Younger Dryas. The lake is quiet, its surface like dark glass. Beneath the water, sediment accumulates slowly, year after year. Pollen grains fall from the air and settle on the lake bottom. Dust arrives on the wind. Organic matter from dead plants and algae drifts down through the water column. Each year's deposition is a layer. And if you could slice through the sediment, you'd see the history of the lake, the history of the region, the history of the climate, preserved in stripes of mud. The pollen is especially revealing. Each type of plant produces distinctive pollen grains, different shapes, different sculptures on their surfaces. And pollen is almost indestructible. It preserves beautifully in lake sediments, waiting for scientists who won't exist for thousands of years to extract cores and identify each grain under microscopes. The pollen tells the story of the vegetation. During the warming period before the Younger Dryas, you'd find pollen from birch trees, from oak, beginning to appear at some latitudes, from a diverse community of shrubs and herbs. The picture is of a warming landscape, forests returning, diversity increasing. Then comes the Younger Dryas layers. The pollen shifts dramatically. Oak disappears, birch declines. The pollen of tundra plants, of tough grasses and sedges and Arctic alpine herbs becomes dominant. The story is clear. The cold returned. The forests retreated. The tundra advanced. This transition happens over just a few years in the sediment record, not gradually over centuries, but abruptly. The climate shift was faster than the comfortable pace of gradual warming that preceded it, fast enough to be felt within a human lifetime, within a single generation. Let this settle into your awareness gently, like sediment settling through water. The abruptness, the speed of change. Climate can shift quickly, more quickly than we might expect. It's not always gradual. Sometimes there are thresholds, tipping points, moments when the system flips from one state to another with surprising swiftness. Breathe slowly. Let the thought move through you without creating tension. It's just information, just part of the story. The Earth has done this before. It will likely do it again. Climate is more dynamic, more capable of surprise than we might imagine from our brief human lifespans. Drift now to other records, other ways the Younger Dryas left its mark. In caves, stalagmites and stalactites grew slowly, layer by layer, as water dripped from above, depositing minerals. The rate of growth, the isotopes in the calcite, the trace elements, all of these preserve climate signals, and they show the Younger Dryas too, a cold, dry period recorded in stone that grows one molecule at a time. In the oceans, the remains of tiny organisms called foraminifera settled on the seafloor. These microscopic creatures have shells made of calcium carbonate. The chemistry of the shells reflects the temperature of the water they lived in, the salinity, the amount of ice on land. Cores drilled from the ocean floor bring up these shells, and scientists can read in them the story of changing oceans, of the circulation disruption, of the cold waters spreading. In trees that lived through the Younger Dryas, the growth rings tell the story. Narrow rings during the cold period when growing seasons were short. Wider rings before and after when warmth and moisture allowed for more growth. Some of these trees still stand, ancient bristlecone pines in the mountains of California. Their rings are direct records stretching back thousands of years. Every archive tells the same story, confirms the others. The Younger Dryas was real. It happened. The Earth cooled dramatically and swiftly. The cold lasted for more than 1,000 years. And then, just as abruptly, it ended. The warmth returned. The ice retreated. The Holocene, our current epoch, began. Let yourself rest in the wonder of this. The Earth keeps records. The planet remembers. Nothing is truly lost. Every shift in climate, every change in the composition of the atmosphere, every migration of species, it's all recorded somewhere, in ice or stone or the rings of ancient trees, in the sediments of lakes and oceans, in the molecules of coral reefs and cave formations. You don't need to remember all these details. They're not important individually. What matters is the pattern, the understanding that the Earth is a recording system as much as it is a life support system. It writes its own history continuously in 1,000 different archives, waiting for creatures intelligent enough to learn to read them. Your breathing is very slow now, very deep. You're drifting on the edge of sleep, and that's good, that's perfect. The story is holding you, cradling you, like ancient ice holds bubbles of ancient air. You're suspended in time, between then and now, between waking and dreaming. The Younger Dryas is both distant and near. It happened more than 12,000 years ago, but it left marks that persist to this day. In the genetics of species that survived it, bottlenecks and founder effects that tell of populations stressed and reduced. In the distributions of plants and animals, patterns that only make sense when you understand that cold period interrupted the post-glacial expansion. In human culture too, perhaps. Some archaeologists argue that the Younger Dryas forced humans to intensify their relationship with certain plants, leading eventually to agriculture. The necessity of surviving in a colder, less abundant world drove innovation, experimentation, the kind of creativity that emerges from constraint. It's a reminder that hardship isn't only destructive, it can also be generative, forcing adaptation, spurring change. The Younger Dryas was difficult for the species that lived through it, but it also shaped them, selected for certain traits, created opportunities for new strategies. Life is resilient. That's one of the messages written in all these archives. Life finds a way. Even when climate shifts dramatically, even when ecosystems collapse and reassemble, life persists. It changes form, migrates, adapts, but it continues. The thread never quite breaks. Feel this resilience in your own body now. Your breath continuing without conscious effort. Your heart beating steadily. Your cells doing their work, maintaining the complex chemistry that is you. You're part of this same resilience, this same persistence. You're made of the same elements that have cycled through the Earth system since the beginning, carbon and oxygen and hydrogen and nitrogen, the same atoms that were here during the Younger Dryas that will be here long after you're gone. It's a kind of immortality, this cycling of elements. You're not separate from the Earth. You're a temporary pattern that the Earth is making, a brief organization of its substance into the form of a human being. And when this pattern dissolves, the elements return, becoming something else, continuing the dance. Rest in this knowledge. Let it ease any fear, any clinging. You're part of something vast and ongoing, something that cannot be diminished or destroyed, only changed, transformed, recycled endlessly through the great metabolism of a living planet. The Younger Dryas passed, the cold ended, warmth returned, life expanded again. And here we are, more than 12,000 years later, still living, still adapting, still part of the story. The journey continues, always continues. There is no end, only transformation. Let yourself transform now, from waking to sleeping, from listening to dreaming. The story holds you. The Earth holds you. You're safe in the embrace of deep time, where your single lifetime is just one breath in a respiration that has continued for billions of years and will continue for billions more. Sleep, if sleep is ready. Or simply rest, floating, held by the rhythm of words and breath and the slow turning of the earth beneath you. In the space between thoughts, in the quiet place where your mind settles when sleep approaches, let's explore something together. Something about the nature of systems, about how small changes can cascade into large effects, about the delicate balance that governs our world. Imagine a mobile, the kind that hangs above a baby's crib. Delicate pieces suspended from wires, balanced perfectly so that the slightest breath of air sets them moving. Each piece connected to every other piece through the structure of wires and connections. Touch one element and the whole thing responds, swaying, readjusting, finding a new balance. Earth's climate is like this mobile. Interconnected systems balance delicately, responsive to perturbation. The atmosphere, the oceans, the ice sheets, the biosphere, all connected, all influencing each other continuously. And like that mobile, sometimes a small push in one place creates unexpectedly large movements in another. Let your breathing slow to match the gentle sway of this imaginary mobile. In and out, like the give and take of heat between ocean and atmosphere, between ice and land, between sunlight and the reflecting surfaces of snow and sea. The Younger Dryas was triggered by water, by the drainage of Lake Agassiz into the Arctic Ocean. But water alone doesn't explain everything. The system amplified that initial perturbation through feedback loops, through cascading effects that magnified the impact. Feedback loops, let's explore this idea gently, without effort. Imagine you're too warm, so you open a window. Cool air comes in, you feel better. That's a negative feedback loop. The system returns to balance. Your action counteracts the initial condition. But now imagine that opening the window lets in not just cool air, but also a breeze that blows papers off your desk, which knock over a candle, which starts a small fire. Now your room is much warmer than before. That's a positive feedback loop. Your action amplifies the initial condition, makes it worse rather than better. Climate systems have both kinds of feedbacks, but the positive feedbacks, the amplifying ones, are what make the system capable of sudden shifts. Let's trace some of these gently, like following a stream from its source to the sea. Fresh water enters the Arctic Ocean from the draining lake. This reduces the salinity of surface water. Lower salinity means lower density. Lower density means the water doesn't sink as readily. Less sinking means less deep water formation. Less deep water formation means less northward flow of warm surface water to replace it. Less warm water in the north means cooler temperatures. Cooler temperatures mean more ice forms, and here's where it amplifies. Ice is white. It reflects sunlight back into space. Water and land are darker. They absorb sunlight, convert it to heat. More ice means more reflection, means less heating, means more ice can form, means more reflection. The feedback loop spirals, driving the system toward a colder state. But don't let this create tension in your body. Just observe it, like watching ripples spread across a pond after you've dropped a stone. Cause and effect, spreading outward, creating patterns. There are other feedbacks too. Cold air holds less moisture than warm air. Less moisture means less water vapor in the atmosphere. Water vapor is a greenhouse gas. Less of it means less heat trapped by the atmosphere. Less heat means colder temperatures, means even drier air. Another amplifying loop. Cold conditions reduce plant growth. Plants remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through photosynthesis. Less plant growth means more carbon dioxide stays in the atmosphere. But wait, wouldn't more carbon dioxide mean more warming, since it's a greenhouse gas? Yes, but the effect is slow, and in the meantime the cold has other, faster feedbacks. The system finds a new balance, a colder balance, and carbon dioxide adjusts over time. Let your mind drift through these connections like water flowing through a network of streams. You don't need to map every connection, just feel the interconnection, the way each element influences the others, the way the whole system dances between states. The oceans are central to this dance. Water has an enormous capacity to store heat. The oceans contain vastly more heat energy than the atmosphere. A small change in ocean circulation patterns can release or sequester huge amounts of heat, enough to shift climate across entire continents. Imagine the ocean as a great battery, storing solar energy collected in the tropics, releasing it slowly as currents carry warm water toward the poles. The thermohaline circulation is part of this energy distribution system. Disrupt it, and the energy distribution changes. Regions that were receiving heat don't receive as much, they cool. But the tropics keep receiving sunlight. That energy has to go somewhere. Some of it goes into the southern hemisphere, creating the seesaw effect we mentioned earlier. Some of it stays in the tropical oceans, warming them slightly. The heat doesn't disappear, it just redistributes. The planet as a whole doesn't cool as much as the northern hemisphere does. The global average temperature drops only a few degrees, but regional temperatures can drop by 10 or 15 degrees, enough to bring back glacial conditions to areas that had been warming. Feel this in your body now. Imagine heat flowing through you, distributing from your core to your extremities. Your heart pumps blood, carrying warmth. If circulation to your fingers slows, they grow cold, even though your core remains warm. The body and the planet, governed by similar principles, both systems for distributing energy. Your breathing is very slow now, deep and rhythmic. Each breath a tide in and out, like the oscillations of climate between warm and cold states. like the slow exchange of gases between your blood and the atmosphere, part of cycles within cycles within cycles. The Younger Dryas persisted because the system found a stable state. Not stable in the sense of unchanging, but stable in the sense of self-maintaining. The feedback loops that created the cold were also the feedback loops that maintained it. Ice reflected sunlight, keeping temperatures low, maintaining the ice. Dry air held little moisture, reducing the greenhouse effect, keeping the air dry. Disrupted ocean circulation failed to deliver tropical heat, maintaining the circulation disruption. It's like a ball resting in a valley between two hills, and the ball is stable there, even though it's not at the absolute lowest point of the whole landscape. It would take energy to push it out of that valley over the hill to a lower valley. But once enough energy accumulates, once some threshold is crossed, the ball can roll over the hill and the system shifts to a new stable state. This is what happened at the end of the Younger Dryas. The system found a way out of the cold valley, pushed over the threshold into a warm valley, but we're not there yet in our story. For now, rest in the cold valley, in the stable coldness, in the self-maintaining feedbacks that kept the Northern Hemisphere in its frozen state for more than a millennium. Let yourself be held by this stability, paradoxical as it might seem. Stable coldness, a reliable pattern, even if it's a pattern of ice and difficulty. There's something restful about patterns, even harsh ones, something the mind can relax into. The unpredictability is over, the system has settled, and there's peace in that settling, however cold the state might be. Your mind is settling too, finding its own stable state, the state of deep rest, of sleep approaching. The thoughts slow, the images drift, the words continue, but they're more like a gentle stream flowing past than something you need to attend to. Let them flow, let yourself flow, your water, finding your level, settling into the valleys of sleep. The dance of water and heat continues, always continues, but you don't need to follow every step. Just feel the rhythm, the underlying pulse that governs all flows, all exchanges, all the movements of energy through systems. You're part of that rhythm. Your existence is one tiny eddy in the great flow. And in recognizing that, in feeling your connection to the whole, there's a deep peace. Rest in that peace now. Let the story continue without you if sleep is ready. Or drift along with it, half aware, in that lovely space where consciousness blurs into dream, where the boundary between self and world becomes porous, where you're not quite sure if you're imagining the story or the story is imagining you. Either way, you're held, you're safe. The dance continues and you're part of it, have always been part of it, will always be part of it. Let that truth settle into your bones, into your breath, into the deepest parts of yourself. And rest. Time stretches out now like honey flowing from a spoon. Slow, golden, sweet despite the cold. We're deep in the Younger Dryas, hundreds of years past its beginning, and the world has settled into its frozen rhythm. Let yourself settle too, sinking deeper into rest, into the space where time moves differently. Imagine you're watching a single tree. It stands alone on a hillside somewhere in what will one day be Scotland. It's a pine, tough, adapted to cold. Its needles are short, dark green, designed to minimize water loss in the dry, cold air. The tree has been here for decades, growing slowly in the brief summers, dormant through the long winters. Watch the tree through a year. Don't rush. Let each season unfold at its own pace. Winter arrives early, stays late. Snow covers the ground from October through May. The tree stands dark against white, patient, waiting. Its sap thickens, becomes almost solid, preventing ice crystals from forming in its cells and destroying them. The tree knows how to survive. Its ancestors have survived cold for millions of years. Small birds shelter in its branches, crossbills specially adapted to extract seeds from pine cones. They cling to the branches, working the cones open with their crossed beaks, extracting the nutrition that will keep them alive through the long darkness. The tree and the birds, partners in survival, each making the other's existence possible. Deep beneath the snow, voles tunnel through the space between earth and snow cover. The snow insulates, keeping this space warmer than the air above. The voles are active all winter, eating seeds and roots, occasionally emerging to dart across the snow surface, always alert for the owls and foxes that hunt them. The winter sky is often clear, painfully bright. The sun rises late, arcs low across the southern sky, sets early. Even at noon, the light is slanted, weak. But on clear nights, the stars are magnificent, hard, bright points in the black sky. The aurora dances, green and red curtains shimmering, charged particles from the sun colliding with Earth's magnetic field, creating beauty in the frozen darkness. Let yourself rest in this image. A tree, birds, small mammals tunneling beneath snow, stars overhead. Life continues, finds a way, even in the cold. There's something deeply restful about this persistence, this quiet endurance. Spring, when it comes, is brief. The snow melts over a few weeks, the ground beneath is soggy, waterlogged. The tree's roots wake up, begin drawing moisture. Buds swell at the tips of branches. Not the buds that will become new needles, those grow in summer, but the tiny cones that will produce pollen or seeds. Insects emerge, suddenly abundant. They've been dormant as larvae or eggs, waiting through the winter. Now they hatch, all at once, driven by the urgency of the short season. Midges swarm. Mosquitoes appear, seeking blood to fuel egg production. Moths fly at dusk. The air is suddenly full of small flying things. Birds arrive from the south, drawn by the explosion of insect life. Warblers, flycatchers, thrushes. They nest quickly, lay eggs, race to raise their young before summer ends. The tree offers nesting sites, protection. Its branches fill with song, with the busy activity of birds feeding nestlings. Summer is the growing time, but it's short. Perhaps 3 months when the ground is fully thawed, when plants can actively photosynthesize, when cold-blooded animals can be fully active. The tree grows a new ring of wood, adding to its girth, but it's a narrow ring. The growing season is too short for much expansion. Flowers bloom on the tundra around the tree. Low-growing plants, Arctic poppies and saxifrages, cushion plants and dwarf willows. They're adapted to the cold, to the short season. They bloom quickly, produce seeds quickly, return to dormancy quickly. Everything is quick in summer, urgent, racing against the coming cold. Autumn, like spring, is brief. The first frosts come in August. The insects die or return to dormancy. The migrant birds leave, heading south again. The tree begins to prepare for winter, moving nutrients from needles into roots, thickening its sap, sealing itself off from the coming cold. And then winter again, and again, and again. Let each cycle wash over you, gentle as waves, year after year, decade after decade, century after century. The tree grows older, thicker, but never very large. The cold limits it. The short growing seasons limit it. But it survives. It endures. This is the rhythm of the Younger Dryas. Not dramatic, not eventful, just persistent. The cold continuing year after year. Life adapting, finding equilibrium with the conditions. Nothing changing much except very slowly. Your breath matches this rhythm now. Slow, deep. Each breath a season. Each heartbeat a day passing in that ancient world. You're drifting, suspended in time, held by the patient rhythm of a cold world that endures because endurance is what life does. Somewhere else, far to the south, mammoth herds move across grasslands. They follow the same routes their ancestors followed, generation after generation. The matriarch leads, remembering where the waterholes are, where the best grazing is in each season. When she dies, her daughter will lead, carrying the same memories, following the same routes. In caves, humans paint. They mix pigments from earth and charcoal, from manganese and iron oxide. They paint the animals they hunt, the horses and bison and deer. They paint their hands, pressing them against the rock wall and blowing pigment around them, leaving negative images, shadows of their presence. They're saying, we were here, we existed, we mattered. On coastlines, other humans gather shellfish, collect bird eggs from cliff nests, hunt seals. The ocean is generous even in the cold. The cold brings nutrients to the surface. The nutrients feed plankton. The plankton feed fish. The fish feed everything else. Coastal people eat well, relatively speaking, better than those dependent on the declining herds of megafauna inland. But everywhere, always, the cold, the long winters, the brief summers, the challenge of survival. And everywhere, life meeting that challenge, finding ways, adapting, persisting. Let this persistence wash through you. Feel it in your own body, the life force that keeps your heart beating, your lungs breathing, your cells metabolizing. You're part of this same persistence, this same determination to continue to exist, to be. Nothing is required of you right now except to be, to breathe, to rest, to let the story flow around you like a gentle stream. You're a stone in that stream, worn smooth by the passage of water and time, solid, present, exactly where you need to be. The Younger Dryas continues, the seasons turn, the tree adds narrow ring after narrow ring, the ice persists, the cold persists, and life, always life, persists in the face of it all, stubborn and beautiful in its stubbornness. Feel that beauty now, not the beauty of warmth or abundance, but the beauty of persistence, of adaptation, of life refusing to surrender even when conditions are harsh. It's a different kind of beauty, quieter, harder to see, but no less real. The tree on the hillside loses branches to winter storms. Ice coats its bark, weighing down limbs until they crack and fall. But new branches grow slowly, from buds that waited years for their chance. The tree reshapes itself around damage, grows asymmetrically, leans away from the prevailing wind. It's not a perfect tree, not the ideal shape it might have been in easier conditions, but it's alive, it's here, and that's enough. You don't need to be perfect either. You don't need to be anything other than what you are, breathing, resting, drifting in this space between waking and sleeping. Like the tree, you've survived everything life has brought you so far. You've adapted, reshaped yourself around damages and difficulties. You're here, and that's enough. That's more than enough. Let this acceptance settle into you. Release any tension, any striving, any sense that you should be doing something other than simply being. Rest in the radical permission to exist exactly as you are. In this moment, neither perfect nor broken, just present, just alive. The stars wheel overhead in that ancient sky. Constellations that these ancient people knew by different names than we use today. Stories they told about the patterns, stories that helped them navigate, track the seasons, understand their place in the cosmos. The stars were teachers, guides, timekeepers in a world without clocks. Imagine lying on your back looking up at that unpolluted sky. There's no artificial light anywhere, no cities, no street lamps. The darkness is absolute, and against it the stars shine with a brilliance you've never seen. The Milky Way is a river of light overhead. You can see thousands of stars, so many they seem to blur together. And you understand in a way that's hard to articulate that you're part of this. The carbon in your body was forged in stars that died billions of years ago. The iron in your blood was created in supernovas. You're made of stardust, literally, assembled from the debris of ancient stellar explosions into the temporary pattern of a human being. This body will return to the earth, eventually be recycled, become soil, become plants, become other animals. The elements persist even as the patterns change. Nothing is lost, only transformed. And in that transformation, there's a kind of continuity, a kind of immortality. Rest in this knowledge. Let it ease any fear of endings, any anxiety about the future. You're part of something ongoing, something that transcends individual existence. The story continues, always continues, and you're a necessary part of it here now, breathing, being. The cold world dreams itself forward one slow year at a time, and you dream with it, your consciousness settling into deeper patterns, brainwaves slowing, thoughts becoming more diffuse, more imagistic. You're not quite awake anymore, but not quite asleep either. You're in the space between, the threshold space, where anything is possible. Time becomes meaningless here. Is it night or day? Have minutes passed or hours? There's no way to know, and it doesn't matter. You're suspended in the eternal now, the moment that's always present, that contains all other moments within it, like a seed contains a future tree. The story continues around you, but it's more like a dream than a narrative now. Images float past, the tree, the mammoth, the aurora, the painted hands on the cave wall, the ice stretching endless to the horizon, the slow drip of water forming stone, the patient accumulation of pollen in lake sediment. All of it connected, all of it part of the great web of existence that includes you, that includes everything. Breathe with it. Let your breath merge with the breath of the world, the slow respiration of forests and oceans, the patient exhalation of ice melting, the inhale of photosynthesis converting sunlight to sugar. You and the world breathing together, one breath, one presence, one continuous flow of being. There's nothing you need to understand, nothing you need to remember. Just this breath, this moment, this gentle holding of awareness that might be yours or might belong to the story itself, or might be shared between you, indistinguishable, merged. The Younger Dryas persists, the cold persists, life persists, and you persist here, now, held by the story, held by the darkness, held by the gentle rhythm of words and breath, and time flowing like water, flowing like ice, flowing like the slow movement of continents across the face of the earth. Rest now, deeply, completely. Let go of any remaining effort to follow, to understand, to stay awake. The story will continue whether you're listening or not. It will carry you, if you let it, down into the deep waters of sleep where dreams and reality merge, where time dissolves, where you can finally, fully, completely rest. In the deepest part of the night, when even the owls have finished hunting and settled into silence, when the world holds its breath between darkness and dawn, there's a quality to time that's different from any other moment. That's where we are now. That's the space we're resting in. Imagine a lake, not the great glacial Lake Agassiz, but a smaller lake, high in mountains, surrounded by tundra and scattered pines. The lake is perfectly still. Its surface is like black glass, reflecting the stars above so perfectly that you can't tell where the real stars end and the reflections begin. Are you looking up at the sky or down into the water? Both. Neither. The distinction dissolves, above and below merge into a single field of stars, and you're suspended in the middle, floating, held by something that might be water, or might be sky, or might be the dream space between them. This is what deep time feels like, past and present reflecting each other, blurring together, becoming indistinguishable. The Younger Dryas is both 12,000 years ago and right now. The Ice Age is both ended and continuing. You are both here in the present and there in the past, and the difference hardly matters. Let your consciousness expand to hold this paradox. Don't try to resolve it. Just let it be, past and present, coexisting, reflecting, merging. Your breath is the same breath that ancient humans breathed. Your heartbeat echoes heartbeats that ceased 12 millennia ago, the atoms of your body have been through countless forms, countless lives, countless iterations of existence. The lake reflects perfectly without judgment or distortion. It simply shows what is. And what is includes everything that ever was and everything that will be, all present in this single moment, this eternal now. Watch as a breeze disturbs the surface. The reflection ripples, breaks apart, reforms. The stars seem to dance in the water, but they're not really dancing. They're still constant, billions of miles away. It's only the medium of reflection that moves, creating the illusion of change where there is only steadiness. Maybe time is like this too. Maybe the past and future are always present, always constant, and it's only our consciousness moving through them that creates the illusion of change, of progression, of before and after. Maybe it's all happening at once, always, eternally, and we're just moving our point of observation through it, like the breeze moving across the water. Don't try to understand this with your thinking mind, just feel it. Let your awareness expand into it, becoming spacious enough to hold contradictions, to embrace paradoxes, to rest in not knowing. The Younger Dryas is a moment frozen in Earth's memory. But frozen doesn't mean dead. It means preserved, held, kept alive in the structure of ice and stone and the genetic code of surviving species. It's as present now as it was then, just in a different form. Nothing is ever truly past. Everything remains transformed but not gone, woven into the fabric of what is. You are woven into this fabric too. Your existence is not separate from the existence of that ancient tree, that painted handprint, that mammoth crossing frozen grasslands. You're all part of the same tapestry, the same continuous expression of matter, organizing itself into patterns of increasing complexity, into life, into consciousness, into the capacity to reflect on itself. The lake reflects the stars reflect in your eyes, you reflect on the stars. Consciousness reflecting consciousness, mirrors within mirrors, awareness, aware of awareness, infinite regress that somehow circles back to wholeness. Rest in this circularity. It's not dizzying, it's restful, like a wave that curls back on itself, creating a space of stillness in its center. You're in that still center now, held by the motion around you but not moved by it. Peaceful, present, complete. The seasons turn, but they also return. Spring becomes summer, becomes autumn, becomes winter, becomes spring again. It's a circle, not a line. The Younger Dryas ended, but in a sense it's also still happening, will always be happening, in the eternal recurrence of patterns that mark Earth's climate. Ice ages come and go. The planet breathes them in and out, long, slow breaths that take 10,000 years to complete. You're breathing too. Your breath is part of this same respiration. Your personal breaths, maybe 15 per minute, are harmonics of the Earth's breath, higher frequency vibrations of the same underlying rhythm. Everything is breathing. Galaxies breathe. Universes breathe. Breath within breath within breath. Fractals of respiration at every scale. Feel your breath now. Not controlling it, just observing it. The cool air entering, the warm air leaving. The pause at the top of the inhale, the pause at the bottom of the exhale. These pauses are like the Younger Dryas. Interruptions in the flow, spaces where change can occur. But they're not really interruptions, they're part of the rhythm, necessary phases, moments of transition between states. Inhale and exhale, warmth and cold, expansion and contraction. The universe pulses with these rhythms and you pulse with it, synchronized, entrained, moving together like dancers who've danced together for so long they no longer need to think about the steps. The lake surface stills again. The reflections become perfect once more. You can't tell water from sky, and it doesn't matter. They're both there, both real, both reflecting each other. The boundary between them exists and doesn't exist simultaneously. It's permeable, crossable, not really a separation at all, but a place of meeting, of exchange, like the boundary between sleeping and waking. Where are you right now? Are you awake, listening to these words? Or are you asleep, dreaming them? Or are you somewhere in between, in that liminal space where consciousness becomes something else, something more fluid, more open, less constrained by the usual rules of attention and awareness? It doesn't matter. Whatever state you're in is perfect. Whatever level of awareness you have right now is exactly right. There's no wrong way to experience this story, this journey through time and memory, and the patterns that connect all things. The water holds the reflection of stars, the ice held the reflection of climate, the genes hold the reflection of evolution, the brain holds the reflection of experience. Everything reflects everything else. The universe is a house of mirrors, and every mirror shows not just what's in front of it, but also the reflections in all the other mirrors, creating infinite complexity from simple presence. You are one of these mirrors. Your consciousness reflects the world, and the world reflects your consciousness. And in that mutual reflection, reality emerges, neither purely objective nor purely subjective, but something in between, something participatory, something created in the interaction between observer and observed. Rest in this creative space. You're not passive, you're not separate. You're actively participating in the creation of reality, moment by moment, breath by breath. Your awareness shapes what you experience, and what you experience shapes your awareness. It's a dance, a dialogue, a continuous exchange. The Younger Dryas was not just something that happened to Earth. It was something Earth did, something the climate system created in response to perturbations, a new state that emerged from the interactions of ice and water and air and the energy flowing through them. In a sense, Earth chose the Younger Dryas, though not consciously, not deliberately. It was the path the system took through its state space, one of many possible paths, but the one that actually manifested. You're doing the same thing right now. Choosing, without conscious deliberation, the path your awareness takes through the state space of possible experiences. Moving towards sleep or staying in that twilight space of half-consciousness, following the story or drifting away from it, all choices that emerge from the complex interaction of your body, mind, circumstances, and the words flowing past you. There's no right choice. Every path leads somewhere, and every somewhere is interesting, is valid, is part of the greater exploration that is your life, that is all life, that is the universe, knowing itself through countless temporary perspectives like yours. Let yourself choose without choosing. Let the path emerge naturally, the way water flows downhill without deciding which hill to descend. Surrender to the gravity of sleep if that's where you're being drawn, or float in the suspended space of reverie if that's where you've settled. Either way, you're exactly where you're meant to be. The lake reflects, the stars shine, the ancient tree grows another ring. Time flows and you flow with it, part of the current, part of the reflected light, part of the great breathing in and breathing out that is existence itself. Nothing to do. Nowhere to go, just this. Just now. Just the gentle holding of awareness like the lake holds the reflection, without effort, without grasping, perfect in its simple presence. Rest, space, vast, empty, infinite space. That's what we float in now, you and I, in the story we're dreaming together. Let your awareness expand outward, beyond the small concerns of human life, beyond the planet itself, into the cosmic perspective where Earth is just a pale blue dot suspended in sunbeams. From here, from this distance, you can't see the ice sheets. You can't distinguish the Younger Dryas from any other moment in Earth's history. You just see a planet, blue and white and brown, turning slowly in the darkness, beautiful and fragile and alone in the void. But not quite alone. The sun burns nearby, a vast fusion reactor converting hydrogen to helium, pouring light and heat into space. Some of that light reaches Earth 8 minutes after it leaves the sun's surface, bathing the planet in energy that drives everything, every weather system, every ocean current, every living thing. We're all children of the sun, powered by its ancient fire, right? And the sun itself is not alone. It's one star among hundreds of billions in the Milky Way galaxy, a spiral of stars and gas and dust stretching 100,000 light-years across. The galaxy turns slowly, majestically, taking 200 million years to complete one rotation. Our sun, and Earth with it, has made this journey 20 times since the planet formed, riding the galactic current like a leaf on a cosmic river. Feel this vastness, not as something overwhelming, but as something that holds you, that contains you safely. You're infinitely small in this cosmic perspective, but that smallness is not insignificance. You're necessary. The universe needs your exact perspective, your exact experience to know itself completely. Zoom back now gently, returning toward Earth. Past the outer planets, Jupiter and Saturn with their swirling storms and rings, past Mars, red and cold and silent, past the asteroid belt, remnants of a planet that never formed, or perhaps one that was destroyed, back to Earth, back to the northern hemisphere, back to the Ice Age world. From this height, you can see the ice sheets as bright white patches covering the continents. You can see the difference between the glacial maximum and the Younger Dryas, the slight retreat and then re-advance of the ice. It's like watching breath, the planet inhaling cold and exhaling warmth over and over in cycles that take thousands of years. But even these ice ages are just breaths in a longer rhythm. Earth has experienced dozens of ice ages over the past 2.5 million years, and periods without ice in between. Before that, for most of Earth's history, there were no permanent ice caps at all. The planet was warmer, more uniform in temperature, tropical or subtropical across much of its surface. And before that, early in Earth's history, the planet was entirely frozen, snowball Earth, ice covering even the equatorial oceans. Life survived in refugia near volcanic vents, in cracks in the ice. And when the snowball finally melted, life exploded into new forms, new strategies, eventually producing all the diversity we see today. The planet breathes at many scales, daily as it rotates and day becomes night, becomes day, seasonally as it orbits the sun and summer becomes winter, becomes summer. And in these longer rhythms, ice ages and warm periods, each lasting thousands or millions of years, breathing in cold and breathing out warmth. Your breath participates in all these rhythms. The oxygen you inhale was produced by plants, which got the energy to produce it from sunlight, which traveled from the sun across space, which the sun produced by fusing hydrogen atoms, which were created in the first moments after the Big Bang. Every breath connects you to the origin of the universe itself, and the carbon dioxide you exhale will be absorbed by plants, incorporated into their structure, eaten by animals, returned to the soil, maybe eventually locked in rocks as limestone, carried into the Earth's mantle by subduction, melted, released from volcanoes, returning to the atmosphere after a journey of hundreds of millions of years. Nothing is wasted. Everything is recycled. The Earth is a closed system, endlessly rearranging its component parts into new configurations. You are one of those configurations, a temporary arrangement of carbon and hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen and trace elements, organized into cells, organs, a body, a consciousness. This arrangement will persist for your lifetime, and then it will dissolve, the elements returning to the Earth, becoming other things, other beings, other configurations in the endless dance of matter. But something persists, not your individual identity perhaps, but the pattern-making capacity itself, the universe's ability to organize matter into complex, self-aware structures. That continues flowing through countless temporary forms, expressing itself now as you, later as something else, always exploring, always experiencing, always knowing itself through new perspectives. Rest in this continuity. You're not just your individual self, you're also an expression of the universe, a way the cosmos is experiencing itself in this moment. And when this particular expression ends, others will continue endlessly, infinitely, until the stars burn out and even the black holes evaporate and the universe returns to the formless quantum foam from which it emerged. But that's trillions of years in the future. For now, here in this moment, existence continues, stars burn, planets turn, life adapts and evolves and persists. And you rest, held by the vastness, cradled by the infinite, small and precious, and exactly where you need to be. The Younger Dryas, from this cosmic perspective, is barely visible, a tiny fluctuation in Earth's temperature lasting a fraction of a second in cosmic time. And yet, for the beings living through it, it was their whole world, their entire reality. The cold was absolute, the challenge was real, the suffering and survival equally genuine. Scale is relative. From the perspective of the universe, your lifetime is infinitesimally brief. From your perspective, it's everything, all the time there is. Both perspectives are true. You're simultaneously insignificant and infinitely important, a paradox that can only be held in awareness, not resolved with logic. Hold it now, let yourself be both tiny and vast, both transient and eternal, both individual and universal. The boundaries blur like the boundary between the lake and sky, between waking and sleeping, between self and other. And in that blurring, there's a deep peace, a release from the burden of having to be only one thing, only one way. You can be everything. You already are everything, just experiencing itself from one particular angle. And that angle, your unique perspective, is valuable, necessary, irreplaceable. The universe wouldn't be complete without your exact experience of it. So rest in your completeness. You don't need to be more than you are. You don't need to achieve or accomplish or prove anything. Your simple existence is enough. Your breathing, your awareness, your being here now, that's sufficient. That's perfect. The vastness holds you gently, the way a mother holds a sleeping child, the way the ocean holds a wave, the way space holds the stars. You're supported, sustained, nurtured by something so large it has no boundaries, so deep it has no bottom, so eternal it has no beginning or end. Let yourself sink into that support. Release any tension, any effort to hold yourself up, to maintain yourself through your own power. You're being maintained by the power that maintains everything, the energy that flows through all things, the source that is both the ground of being and being itself. Rest there, in the vastness, in the peace, in the perfect safety of being held by existence itself, by the great mystery that births galaxies and atoms, supernovas and snowflakes, ice ages and individual lives, all part of one continuous expression of creativity, of being, of the universe, knowing and experiencing and celebrating itself. The story continues, but it's less a story now than a presence, less a narrative than a feeling, less words than a sense of being held in something larger, something that includes you and the Younger Dryas and the stars and the spaces between stars, all of it together, all of it one. Breathe with it, be with it, rest in it. Nothing more is needed, nothing more has ever been needed. You're complete, whole, perfect, exactly as you are, held in the vastness that holds everything, the infinite embrace that is the true nature of reality itself. Sleep, if sleep comes, or rest in this spacious awareness, this cosmic consciousness that includes individual experience but is not limited to it. Either way, you're home. You've always been home. The journey was just a way of remembering what you never really forgot. Peace. There's a moment in every deep rest, in every true surrender, when something releases, not something you can force or manufacture, but something that happens on its own, when conditions are right, when resistance finally exhausts itself and lets go. Maybe that moment is here now, or maybe it's approaching, gathering like dawn before you can see its light. Either way, there's an invitation extended, quiet, patient, waiting for you to accept it whenever you're ready. The invitation is to stop completely, to cease the subtle effort of following, of understanding, of staying conscious, to release even the gentle awareness that's been floating through this story, and let yourself sink below awareness into something deeper, something that knows without knowing, that exists without the need for consciousness to verify it. The Younger Dryas world knew this state. The tree in winter, dormant, its processes slowed to nearly nothing, yet still alive, still present, waiting for spring without knowing it's waiting. The mammoth sleeping through a blizzard, conserving energy, heart rate slowed, just being, surviving through non-doing. There's wisdom in this, the wisdom of winter, of dormancy, of the fallow time when nothing grows because everything is resting, gathering strength, preparing for the next cycle of activity. We've lost touch with this wisdom perhaps in our world of constant light and activity, but your body remembers, your deeper nature knows. Let it teach you now. Feel how your body wants to let go, to release into sleep. Don't fight it, don't resist it. There's nothing in this story that's more important than your rest. In fact, your rest is the point, the purpose, the reason for everything that's been said. The words have been a vehicle carrying you here to this place where words are no longer needed. Like a boat that brings you to an island, the boat has served its purpose. You can let it drift away now. You don't need it anymore. You've arrived. Where have you arrived? To the shore of sleep. To the boundary between consciousness and unconsciousness, that permeable membrane where amazing things happen. Where the day's experiences are processed and integrated. Where the brain does its cleaning and repair work. Where dreams emerge, creating new connections, new insights, new possibilities. But you don't need to think about any of that. You just need to step across the threshold. Or rather, stop stepping, stop doing anything, and let the threshold rise up to meet you. Let sleep claim you as its own. Think of the ice sheet slowly accumulating snow year after year. Each snowflake lands softly, settles, is buried by others. Eventually, under the weight of all the snow above, the deeper snow compresses into ice. But no single snowflake causes this transformation. It happens gradually, inevitably, as a result of many small additions, none of them significant on their own. Your surrender to sleep is like this. Each breath releases you a little more. Each heartbeat carries you a little deeper. The words float past like falling snow, covering you gently, their individual meanings mattering less and less, just a soft accumulation of sound and rhythm that eases you down, down, down. There's no effort required, that's the secret. The more you try to fall asleep, the more you engage the very consciousness you're trying to release. But if you simply allow, if you simply stop resisting what's already happening, sleep arrives on its own, a gift, a grace, an inevitable destination of a journey you've been on since you first closed your eyes. Or maybe your eyes are still open, that's okay too. They'll close when they're ready, or maybe you'll drift into sleep with them open, that strange state where the body sleeps but the eyes forgot to close. It doesn't matter, sleep doesn't require any particular posture or position, it just requires letting go. What are you letting go of? Control. The illusion that you're managing your experience, directing your consciousness, staying on top of things, that's exhausting. It's a burden you don't need to carry. Set it down, here, now, in this dark, quiet place, where you're safe, where nothing requires your attention, where there's nothing to manage and nothing to control. The Earth let go, in a sense, when the ice dam broke. It released the water it had been holding, let it flow where it needed to flow. And yes, that caused disruption, caused change, but it also led eventually to a new balance, a new way of being. Sometimes letting go creates chaos, but chaos is often necessary for transformation, for the emergence of new patterns. Your letting go won't create chaos, it will create rest, restoration, renewal. Your body knows what to do with this gift of surrender. It will heal what needs healing, process what needs processing, restore what's been depleted. You don't have to direct any of this. Your autonomic nervous system, your unconscious processes, they'll handle everything. They've been doing it your entire life, every night, without your conscious involvement. Trust them now. Trust the wisdom of your body. Trust the process that's been refined over millions of years of evolution. Trust that you can let go completely and you'll be okay, more than okay. You'll be restored. In the deep cold of the Younger Dryas, life trusted. The seeds buried in soil trusted that spring would come eventually. The animals hibernating trusted they would wake. The people enduring trusted that the sun would rise, that the seasons would turn, that life would continue, and their trust was rewarded. Spring did come, they did wake, life did continue. Your trust will be rewarded too. Sleep will come, or is already here, gathering around you like a soft blanket. And you'll wake when it's time, restored and ready for another day. But that's far away now. That's on the other side of sleep, across the vast ocean of rest that stretches before you. Step into that ocean now, or stop thinking of it as stepping, as anything you have to do. You're already in it. You've been in it for a while now, floating, suspended, held by water that's indistinguishable from sky, in that space where boundaries dissolve and everything merges into one. One breath, one heartbeat, one presence, not yours exactly, or not yours alone. The same presence that inhabited the ancient tree, that moved through the mammoth herds, that painted hands on cave walls. The same consciousness that knows itself through billions of temporary forms, including this one, including you. Rest in that knowing, or rest in not knowing. Rest in the space before knowledge, before words, before thoughts. Rest in the silence that holds all sound. Rest in the darkness that makes light possible. Rest in the emptiness that is actually fullness, the void that is actually the source of all things. The invitation stands. It will stand as long as you need it to. There's no rush, no pressure, no wrong time to accept. But whenever you're ready, however you're ready, in whatever way is natural for you, the invitation is simply this: let go, surrender, sleep. The vastness will hold you. The story will continue without you if necessary, or will carry you in its current if you're still somewhat aware. Either way, you're safe, you're supported, you're exactly where you need to be. And now, having said all there is to say, the words begin to fade, to space themselves further apart, to become less important, less insistent, more like a gentle background hum than anything requiring attention. In the deepest part of sleep, or in the floating space that borders sleep, understanding comes differently. Not through logic or analysis, but through sudden knowing, through patterns that reveal themselves whole and complete. If you're still here, still aware in some way, let's explore together one final mystery. Not with effort, but with the ease of dreams, where impossible things make perfect sense and separate things reveal their unity. Everything connects. That's the hidden truth the Younger Dryas teaches. The lake drainage connects to ocean circulation, connects to climate, connects to ecosystems, connects to evolution, connects to human culture. No part stands alone. Every element influences every other element, and the whole emerges from these countless interactions. Feel this web of connection now, not as an abstract concept, but as a lived reality. Your breath connects you to plants, which connect to sunlight, which connects to nuclear fusion in the Sun, which connects to the formation of elements in earlier supernovas, which connects to the Big Bang itself. Every breath you take connects you to the origin of everything. Your body contains water that was once in glacial Lake Agassiz. The atoms have cycled through countless forms since then, but some of them statistically must have been there in that vast cold lake before flowing into the Arctic Ocean and beginning a journey through clouds and rain and rivers and your glass of water, and now your cells. You contain the Younger Dryas within you, literally, physically, and the Younger Dryas contains you. Not your individual self, obviously, but the possibility of you. The climate shift shaped human evolution, selected for certain traits, pushed populations into new territories where they mixed and adapted. Your DNA carries echoes of these ancient movements, these climate-driven migrations. You exist because your ancestors survived the cold, because they were clever and adaptable and stubborn enough to endure. Past and present interpenetrate. The ancient and the now coexist. Time is not really linear, not really a straight line from past through present to future. It's more like a field with all moments present simultaneously, and our consciousness moving through this field like a spotlight, illuminating one small area while the rest remains dark but still existent. Let this understanding wash through you. Don't analyze it, just feel its truth. The way you feel warmth from the sun or cold from ice. It's visceral, bodily, deeper than thought. The Younger Dryas teaches that change can be sudden, that systems have tipping points, that gradual trends can reverse quickly when key thresholds are crossed. This is true of climate, yes, but also of your own life, your own consciousness. Change doesn't always come gradually. Sometimes it arrives all at once, a sudden shift from one state to another, a phased transition like water to ice. Maybe you're experiencing such a transition now, from waking to sleeping, from conscious to unconscious. Or maybe the shift is subtler, from tension to relaxation, from anxiety to peace, from isolation to connection. Whatever is shifting, let it shift. Don't resist the phase transition. It's natural. It's how systems evolve. The mammoth herds couldn't resist the Younger Dryas. The ice couldn't resist the warming that eventually came. Life doesn't resist the conditions it finds. It adapts. It changes form. It finds new strategies. And in this flexibility, this willingness to transform, lies its strength. You have this strength too. You're more adaptable than you know, more resilient, more capable of transformation. The very fact that you're here, listening to this story in the deep night, seeking rest and peace, shows your adaptability, your willingness to try new approaches, to open yourself to experience. The connections run deep. Climate connects to culture, connects to consciousness, connects to cosmos. You're a node in this vast network, a point where countless threads converge, a place where the universe knows itself in this particular way, from this particular perspective. And in recognizing this, in feeling your place in the web, there's a profound relaxation. You don't have to hold yourself separate. You don't have to maintain boundaries, defend territory, prove your individual worth. You're already worthy, already connected, already part of something infinitely larger and more meaningful than any separate self could be. Breathe this in, let it permeate your being. You're held by connections you don't even perceive, supported by systems you've never thought about, sustained by processes that have been running since before your birth and will continue after your death. You don't have to do it alone. You've never been alone. The separation was always an illusion, a useful fiction, but not ultimately real. What's real is connection. What's real is the web. What's real is the vast, intricate, beautiful interdependence of all things, from the smallest subatomic particle to the largest galaxy cluster, all of it connected, all of it one, experiencing itself through countless temporary forms. This one, yours, being one of them. Rest in this oneness. Let it hold you. Let it dissolve any remaining sense of isolation or separation. You're home, you've always been home, in the great web of existence that is your true nature, your deepest reality, your ultimate identity. The story whispers on, softer now, fading into the background, becoming just a gentle presence,